Let's now expand on this a bit further with our senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara. Marwan, I want to pick up on what Rory was saying there about Erdogan being unhappy with the Russians and the Americans saying they wanted a political solution for the war in Syria, that there was not a military solution to the conflict. Why would he be unhappy? Is he feeling left out, perhaps?
Well, I mean, I think he's unhappy, period, about all his relationships with the West and the East, with Russia and the United States. In general, he's unhappy about the situation in Syria. If you're in his place, you would say, look, here I am, the power, the Euro-Asian power, the rising power in the East, the largest Islamist, Muslim country in the Middle East, the most expanding economy, the second largest army in NATO, fighting on the ground in Syria, paying the real price for the refugees out of Syria into Turkey, paying the price of terror, again, coming out of Syria, being responsible for all sorts of plans and possibilities to manage ceasefires and deconfliction in Syria. So probably the question in Erdogan's mind, why am I not the one sponsoring the talks in Geneva? Why are the Americans?
So he's feeling left out, basically.
Definitely, especially, you know, the whole idea of the superpower logic. When it comes to Syria, we all know that Iran and Turkey are playing far greater role in Syria than the United States. And Turkey is not on the same wave as the United States.
Right, relations with America have been deteriorating, no doubt. And at the same time, we're seeing Turkey's relations with Iran improve, Turkey's relations with Russia improve. Are they changing now? Are they shifting their alliances?
So here it is. There's a positive correlation, negative correlation between Turkey and Russia and Turkey and the United States. And at the end of the day, the driver in this relationship with Russia is Turkey, not Russia. Since 2 years, since the downing of the plane and the worsening of relations between Moscow and Ankara, it was Turkey that started rolling back or walking back, if you will, its animosity towards Russia. What happened, Foley? What happened is the following. And you know, as they say, permission to speak freely.
Do.
I think the Turks think the Americans and the Europeans are backstabbing cowards. And I think the Americans and the Europeans think Erdogan is rash and brash leader. I think he thinks, since he got in confrontation with Russia, that they did not support him as a NATO member. They did not back him. And that all the promises to him about supporting Syrian refugees and so on and so forth and opening up to Europe, that did not happen. He thinks the whole bit about creating protected zones in northern Syria did not happen because Barack Obama backed out. He thinks Trump is not serious and indifferent to the suffering in Syria.
But can he trust the Russians to be more sincere in their relationship?
This is the thing. So the alliance is actually between Turkey and the United States, or Turkey and the West. That's where the alliance is. But the relationships continues to get colder every day. On the other hand, there is no alliance between Turkey and Russia. But relations are warming up day by day. So it's kind of a paradox. We know that there's a ceiling to the relationship between Turkey and Russia because it will never really become an alliance, not anytime soon. But NATO will not give up on Turkey. It needs Turkey. Despite the aggravation, despite the tension between NATO members and Turkey, despite Turkey's aggravation with NATO members, I think they need each other. They prefer to be together, frustrated, than separate.
All right, very interesting. Thank you so much for coming on the News Grid, Marwan, and as always explaining all this complicated relationship and the geopolitics of the region. Marwan Bishara, a senior political analyst.